episode 144. Thank you very much for tuning in, taking the time to listen. This is going to be a different show. Indeed, longtime listeners, or recent listeners, I should say, have realized that there's been some changes going on with the Podcast Digest, and with me more specifically. And I decided to take this week's show and let you know about them, sort of where I'm at with the show, what I envision the future looking like, and bring you guys behind the scenes. And one of the reasons that I decided to do this is that, again, I did not have a new interview for you this week, and that's because of all the reasons I've been explaining. So just to catch folks up that may be tuning in for the first time. So for the last 2 weeks, episodes 142 and 143, I've delivered an episode that is a little bit different. 142 was the Podcast Digest's first ever rerun. I replayed my episode from my conversation with Roman Mars of Radiotopia from episode 77. I did put on a new intro and outro, but it was a replay. Then last week I returned to a format I've used before, which is the recommendation episode, and I had Stephanie from Gotham Lights join me, and we had a great conversation, recommended great shows. If you haven't heard it, please go back and listen to that one. I think you will find some great stuff for your subscription list. But during the discussion topic phase, I talked about pod fading, because that was something that had crossed my mind, and I'd also talked about how listener feedback was sort of lacking in recent weeks, especially in terms of me getting input and getting your thoughts on sort of what to do next with the Podcast Digest. Well, I wanted to let you guys know that after last week, I did receive feedback. In fact, I received lots of feedback, and in fact, I've never received so much feedback in a given episode from the Podcast Digest. So first off, and most importantly, I want to thank each and every one of you via Twitter, DMs on Twitter, email, especially the emailers. Many of you put in a lot of time and effort in writing long explanations and on different topics and feedback. So I was really, really humbled to see that there's so many of you out there that listen and enjoy this show that would take the time to put together that much information. So first of all, thank you all so much. That really sort of scratched the feedback itch and really helped me sort of come to the conclusion I've come to on the future of the Podcast Digest. So, the reason I'm talking to you guys today on episode 144 that you now see in the subject line says solo is I've kind of come up with an approach on how I can keep things going in a reasonable, happy for everyone kind of way, a way that I think that I can keep things going in a way that I hope that you will enjoy, and I hope that sort of satisfies all parties. So let's run that down. So I was facing a few options on what to do, right? I could have put the show on hiatus, the H word, as people said on Twitter. Don't say the H word. Temporary hiatus. I could have changed the release schedule to say every 2 weeks or once a month, or I could continue to plow through weekly with any number of approaches. So I sort of took stock of everything, and I read all the feedback that I was getting, and I thought about what I was capable of. And let me explain that as well. I've been alluding to this before in the past, but for those of you who don't know, life's gotten pretty crazy for me. My day job is sort of up in arms right now. I'm being laid off at the end of July, so I've been in a job hunt lately to figure out what the next step of my career will be. I've got a few interesting things going on, but nothing definitive after July 31st. But that time is obviously being sucked down in terms of on the websites, calls, going on interviews, so on and so forth. Also, I've been doing audiobook production. Those of you may know that I do audiobooks for Audible. If you put my name, Dan Lizette, in Amazon, you'll find any number of the books I've done. They're mostly kind of nonfiction businessy, so if that's up your alley, check it out. So I've been working on a rather long one in the past month and a half or so that's taken up more time. Because of the day job situation, I've also decided to do other things because I'm an absolute ridiculous workaholic, as you may have already guessed. I'm still DJing. Wedding season has kicked off. I've started something new with the DJ company I work for, where when I'm not DJing, I'm supervising, going around to other DJs working, checking out their setups, offering any technical assistance or input on the work they're doing. And I decided to try something new, anticipating this transition with the day job coming up on ways I can kind of keep things bridged and going, kind of keep the lights on and the roof over our head for my family. I've decided to start driving for Lyft lately. So it's Philadelphia market. I've got a big vehicle that I use for DJing. So for the last week or so, I've been working with Lyft. So you start to add all that up in the time, and you can start to see what happens here, right? There is almost none of it left. Oh, by the way, married, kids, dogs. For those of you who don't follow me on Instagram, you might want to hop over there because my crazy dog status has definitely gone through the roof. We added another dog recently, and now there's just so many animals, so many animals. But the point of it is that all of this has come up, and it's been very, very hard to do the research, reach out to show hosts or producers, schedule interviews, record them, edit them, publish them, so on and so forth. In fact, a lot of what I've been telling you has even impacted my listening time. So I haven't even been able to take in nearly as much as I used to when things were sort of routine and without complication. So let's double this all back around to what I've decided to do. I realized something, a light bulb sort of went off in my head during this week as I was reading through the feedback and deciding on next steps, was that one of the goals I've always had with the Podcast Digest, and I hope, especially for you longtime listeners, that I've achieved this to some degree in your listening, is that I wanted to bring people behind the scenes of their favorite podcasts and sort of peel back the curtain from what you traditionally hear. And sort of let you know how the sausage is made, the director's cut, if you will, of some of these great shows and hosts that I've talked to. So I said, you know what? I could do that with this show, with my show, with the Podcast Digest. And what I'm going to do is call them solo shows. So that's what this week is. You see in the subject line of this episode, or the title line of this episode, it says solo. And what that means is going to be a couple of things. One, it's just going to be me. There's not going to be any advertising on these episodes. It's not going to be any guests, any co-hosts, any interviews. It's just going to be me. And what this is going to allow me to do is to publish an episode when I don't have a guest. If this stuff doesn't really interest you, if sort of the personal side of the Podcast Digest or myself, you can skip these. But it's a way for me to kind of take all of you behind the scenes of this show and give you sort of more of a general understanding of what I do, why it's happening. And as I get into more solo shows in the future, I may even jump in deeper with, my booking process, the interview process, my prep, maybe even talk about some equipment I use, so on and so forth. So I may get into all that down the road. But this allows me to have an episode with very little prep because it's just me talking to you, and also make sure that I can put out an episode that's technically new content when I haven't been able to lock down and secure a guest. Also, what I'll be doing is more replays. I've heard from a lot of people in this wonderful week of feedback that a lot of people came in late, came in around episode 70 or 80 or 90 or just came in the last few weeks, what have you. And they hadn't had a chance to go back and listen to or didn't know where to start with some of the previous guests that I've spoken to. So when I do a replay, I will record a new intro and new outro. And I've been working with my advertising partner, Podbean. As you guys know, Podbean has been a great supporter of the show. And I've been talking with them about how to approach our current agreement with some of these changes I'm making. And we've mutually agreed that I will only be featuring advertising in the near future anyways on brand new interview episodes. So these replays, which I'm going to call, as I did with Roman Mars in the subject line of those shows, flashbacks, will not have any advertising, as will these solo shows. So they will be in all caps, like this week's show. It'll say solo. It will be in all caps if it's a replay. It'll say flashback. That way, with those of you subscribed, if you missed that episode and you want to hear, a new intro and take on things, then you can listen to the flashback episodes or the replays. I'm going to try to choose episodes from my back catalog that maybe have some current event relevancy. Maybe the person just released a new series or a new season, or maybe the show's been in the news, or I want to sort of turn your attention back to that show in case you missed it, because they're doing great things now. And in the case of Roman Mars, that was one of the reasons I released that one. They had just finished a full week of live shows, and they'd been getting a lot of attention for their work as a live show. So that's one of the reasons I chose that episode as the first ever flashback episode of the Podcast Digest. So that'll kind of be my mentality. So what's going to go forward here is you'll hear at least 3 or 4 show types. You're going to have solo shows like this one. These are going to be very short, guys, 10 to 15, maybe 20 minutes, and it's just going to be me talking. Again, if that bores you, you don't want to hear that, I completely understand. Skip the episodes called solo. You'll hear replays or flashbacks. Again, if you already heard the episode, skip it. Okay. And then the new episodes, the new interviews, will have the normal format. It'll have TPD, episode number, and then guest and from whatever their show is. And then, of course, I will probably still do recommendation episodes as well. So maybe this variety will be good. Maybe you guys will like sort of the different show type that you're getting each week instead of just the standard interviews. Or maybe this experiment will just bomb and people won't want to listen to just me talk or care about, what's going on with this show. And I'm going to try not to make these solo episodes complaint sessions. One of the things that in the last 2 weeks that came up that I want to sort of clear the air of is I'm not complaining. And if I am, or it's been taken as such, my apologies. Okay. I love doing this. I love the microphone. I love podcasting. I love talking to co-hosts and guests and digging in on the work that these folks do. There's nothing to complain about. This show's been around. September will be 3 years. I've been so fortunate to talk with so many of the people that I've had, to interact with all of you on social media, on email. And I've been fortunate enough to have a sponsor for many of these episodes. So I can't complain. And again, it's sort of been that life status that I ran down for you a few minutes ago that have kind of put me under a lot of pressure. And I'm trying to keep all these balls in the air. So if I came across in the last couple of weeks at all as, complaining or negative or anything like that, please accept my apologies, stricken it from the record, Your Honor. And I'm going to make a mental note to make sure that these solo episodes specifically don't come off as such. I want you to gain something out of these solo episodes, something about me or the show or my process or whatever that I hope that you'll find interesting. So I mentioned on social media at Pod Digest. If you're not following the show already, please do so. It is kind of where I speak the most about all things going on with the show and podcasting in general. That I'd have some updates for you this week. So I just decided to hold for this first ever solo show and make this kind of the explanation, the explainer on where things are going, what I'm thinking. And then again, of course, ask you for your feedback. I love the conversation that we got started this week. I mean, I received so many amazing suggestions, so much support. I don't want to necessarily specifically get into all of it. I didn't ask any of these wonderful folks if they were okay with me, talking about them on the show. But just generally speaking, I received people about talking about that, it was an inspiration for starting their own show, or that they listen every week since this time, or they've gone back, or they're fine with every 2 weeks or monthly, or it was just a phenomenal deluge of supporting comments and inputs, constructive criticisms in a case or two, and that was all awesome. So my thank you once again. I just want to emphasize that. So there you go, folks. That is the status update, if you will, in little more than 140 characters on where things stand with the Podcast Digest, what I plan on doing forward. I do hope that as I get into late summer, early fall, that things with the day job, things with some of these other projects that I'm taking on will sort of settle out. I think I'm putting the audiobooks on hold for a little while. Lyft driving, I'll probably end up doing 1 day a week. DJing is, pretty much the Saturday thing. So I hope that I will settle back into a routine and the Podcast Digest can return before too long to its regular, normal, weekly, full-length interview debut routine. But I don't know. To be quite honest with you, I didn't even know all of this time would be coming, this phase would be coming. So I can't tell you definitively what will happen for the future. I do hope that you'll come along for the ride. I hope that you will continue to tell friends about the Podcast Digest. as this week's feedback meant so much to me and kind of gave me clarity on what I'm doing. You guys telling folks about the show, sharing it on social media, leaving an iTunes review if you haven't already done so. These are going to be sort of the regular signals for me that I've got a listening audience out there, that I'm not the only one who cares a lot about this show, this project, this enterprise, and enjoys doing it. So the more that you're able to do things like that, the more that you're continually to send those signals to me, and that will just provide me the fuel that I think I'm going to need to continue to plow through this day life transition, and we'll get there together. And I'm humbled that you'd even consider coming along for the ride with me. So I think I'll wrap it up for the first solo shows. Again, I want these to be short and consumable. I know I heard from a lot of people that, the hour long every week was a little tough to keep up with anyways, so they were fine with a lesser release schedule. So I've committed to make these solos in that 10 to 20 minute window. So it looks like this one will slide right in there. So that'll do it for this week, folks. Episode 144. I can tell you this. I do have a show, an interview booked for the first week of June. So I think it's probably slotting out for 146 right now. I'm going to continue to effort other interviews as my schedule allows, but a new interview is coming before too long, that I can promise you. Happy Memorial Day weekend to those of you in the States, and thanks to all of those, any of you in the listening audience who serve or have served, or family or friends who served in the military. This is your weekend, and I thank you as well. So that's it for this week, folks. For the Podcast Digest, my name's Dan Lizette, and I'll talk to you next week.